friends, and welcome to another episode of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, Tanya Tyler. I'm excited about my guest today. It is the exciting, enthusiastic Mr. Tyrone DuBose. He is here. We're going to talk about some of the great things that have happened over the last month, about some stuff that we've been dealing with, this COVID-19. And without further ado, I'd like to bring on Mr. Tyrone DuBose. Welcome.
Greetings and salutations. I am so glad, TT, to be back here with you. But before I begin, I have to say happy birthday to you, my friend. You look not a day over 22.
Well, that's why we've been friends for so long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and don't forget it, right?
Don't mess it up. No, I also want to say, for those who don't know, happy early birthday to Mr. Tyrone. His birthday is coming up May 5th.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Cinco de Mayo, right?
Cinco de Mayo, minus the Mayo.
Well, welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be here.
There's been some great things that's happened over the last month since we talked to each other. And I always love coming back to you because I remember years ago when we started working together, you always talked about thinking about what worked, what didn't work. You know, I think we called it like going back to the basics.
Yeah.
So now that we've had this downtime with this COVID-19 and stuff like that, I know you probably had time to reflect. So is there anything that you would say you've learned over the last couple weeks or periods since we've been dealing with this pandemic?
Yeah, you know, since I've been on hiatus since March, so I've been here at home since March, which I gotta say, at first I thought that, you know, it was gonna be kind of downtime for me, but to be perfectly honest, there was a lot of things that I had wanted to do. I needed to finish the sizzle reel. I needed to start on this book in which I needed to, you know, get going to get to the next level, you know, of the journey that I've been trying to reach. And I think that was part of, you know, one of the hardest things for me of trying to figure out, you know, what to do. But the one thing I've always recognized is that I get up and get dressed every morning like I'm going to work. That was the first thing I did. And I get up at the same time every morning and I get dressed and then I get breakfast and then I turn the TV off, and during the entire day, I'm working. And that helps me to stay disciplined and recognize that there's a goal that, you know, I'm trying to get to.
Right. I understand the whole goal thing because I like during the 12, I call it the blue hour because that's how I put on my calendar. But between 12 and 4, I usually put my phone on do not disturb. So when you put yourself into a discipline, I mean, it's easy to get things done, right?
Absolutely. And you know, my thing is that I believe that it's either I get it done now or it's never going to get done. This journey is, you know, the most important for me. And, you know, for a lot of us, we have to realize that this is probably going to be the most downtime that you're going to have in your lifetime, And so for me, in my head, I think like, it's never going to be like this for me again. So in my head, I decided that I'm going to do everything that I can now to make things work. Because it either works now or it doesn't work at all. And there won't be any excuses for me. So one of the things I do to burn off a lot of energy is I walk all day now. And, you know, like instead of going to work in the morning, you know, the first hour of my day is I'm at the park. And, you know, I do 3, you know, laps around the track. That's 3 miles there. Then a lap around, you know, the area here where I live in Los Angeles. And then I go back to the park in the afternoon. In other words, I wanted to reemerge as someone and something different. And not for them, but for myself. I needed to be a new person. And for all of us to some degree, that's exactly what we need to become. We need to become something new. If you're going to be the same old person, then this makes no sense for you. Then that means that basically you haven't learned anything. But in my home, I recognize, for example, here in my studio, in my office, like I was using towels instead of using dust covers on these computers. But it didn't matter to me before because I wasn't in here as much. But then as time went on, I got to realizing that this right here is basically my sanctuary. It's where I spend 8 hours of my day. So I needed to look like a place where I want to be all day.
That absolutely makes sense because like I said, I start my day, I have to get my walk in because it helps me clear my head and then I can focus on, you know, maybe some of the goals. So yeah, I think like I said, if it wasn't for me taking these walks, we wouldn't be doing this podcast. I'll tell you that right now.
Right, absolutely. I think that's very, very important. And I think it's so important for everybody. You need to be able to find your mark, something that's going to make it right for you to some degree, something. You have to do something. To just sit there and be the same person means that you haven't grown. And the goal is to grow. You know, you got to get going on your growing. That's a big deal.
I like that. And you know what made me think about it? It's like, if you emerge coming out of this COVID-19 with the same kind of mentality, you didn't take a moment to really say, this would have been something for me to learn from, you know? And I think that's a valuable tool that a lot of people are not maybe seeing.
Yeah,
So,
no, I agree. You know, a lot of times people, for me, I didn't just reevaluate and reassess myself. I reevaluated and thought about the friends and the people that were around me as well. I think it's really important. What I'm recognizing is that I'm outgrowing a lot of people, even if it's uncomfortable. And it may be the same for a lot of you that are in, even if it includes your friends and family to some degree. Somehow or another, there needs to be a hunger about you or something different about you that there is about everybody else. And that's the thing that I've learned more than anything else right now. Less is more, but you know, the more time I've spent with myself, the more time I've had to evaluate what I believe finally is best for me. And that's something that I wasn't able to see in a long time, but now I do.
right. So, I mean, besides like the walks and stuff like that, I mean, do you recommend like maybe taking the time to evaluate where your goals are or what you want to do? I mean,
Well, every
how
single
important-
day when I come in my office, I have a list. And every single day. And what I do with this list every day is I write down everything that I need to do. Then I go back to the list and then I prioritize it in some sense of order, 5 at a time. Even if it's from taking out the trash, of checking my emails, writing a letter, doing a recording, you know, calls I need to make or something of that nature. But I make it a priority to make sure that somehow or another I have a sense of structure in my life. Because you have to understand that when this is over with, you're going to have to get back to the basics. And the basics for you is going back to work. Remember, the 9 to 5 pays the bills. But if you got dreams, the 6 to 10 builds the empire. And that's how I look at it.
I like that. I like that. So you always talk about going back to the basics. So when you go back to the basics, do you have like a yearly goals that you set ahead of time? Or how do you know like if you're headed in the right direction?
The first 3 months of the year, I always say for people, is the most important 3 months. Is actually going to set the boundaries or the goals for your entire year. Because usually the first 90 days is usually when you're willing to make changes. You know how they say, what's a new year? You know what, I'm going to do this, this, and this. And so for me, one of the things in which I've learned is I write a top 10 list of all these things. And some of it's simplistic, whether it's cleaning out the closet or fixing up a room or doing something personal, whatever it is. But in my mind, that top 10 list really dictates the way the rest of my year is going to go. Because it tells me that if I set myself a goal of getting things done, or that I set a goal of wanting to get it to happen, it's going to work. So then I look back at that goal and I go, okay, these 10 things were my top 10 list and I got it done. It didn't have to be anything major, but it just needed to be something. You know, for example, every year in my closet, I clean out all of my clothes, but I do it in spurts. You know, the first thing was I went through the closets and I cleaned out all the short sleeve shirts. Then I turned all the hangers to the other side. When I go back in January, if I haven't worn it in a year, it's gone, because that means that I didn't need it. And it makes more space for other room for myself. Because what happens is we hold on to things. And that's one of the things that I'm learning now, particularly as I'm getting older, that I don't want to do. I don't want to hold on to things that don't mean anything to me anymore. I need to grab onto things that do. And that just not includes just your clothes or your house. It includes friends, even family to some degree. Some of us are dealing in toxic times with people. So you have to be able to some degree to recognize the most important part of your life includes you recognizing you need to do something different about you.
Now, I have a question though. For those who are thinking, well, if he's really my friend, do you feel like they're being discarded because you're leaving them behind, or you know? So
no, I mean, I think, but you know what happens is that people's journeys change as time goes on. You know, you have to understand, when I go back to the studios, I'm not going to be the same guy I was in March. It really doesn't matter. I'm just not going to be the same guy. So if I'm not going to be the same guy in March, then that means definitely none of these people are going to be the same people either. So my point is that why be the same person? As time goes on, you're going to start outgrowing people that you knew 3 months ago. You're not going to be the same person that they see. So you need to be something that's going to be better for you. And that's one of the things that we constantly miss as people. We always somehow or another believe that we're tied to people. You're not tied to people. You're tied to those people in the moment or season that you know them then. If those people are willing to go to the next season with you, then they need to be in the next season. But it doesn't necessarily mean that everybody goes with you to where you're trying to go. And that's not a bad thing or even unreasonable. It's just life. And you should be okay with that. Because if you're okay with it, you need to understand they're okay with it too. Trust me, the same people that you were hanging out with on Friday nights before all this happened, you're not going to be hanging out with those same people once this is all changed. Remember when you went to high school, and after high school was over, and then all of a sudden, after the summer went, some people went to college, some people went to work, some people went to the military. Everybody changes. And so you need to be able to change for something that's better for you.
Right, right. I mean, like you said, I think like we do get caught up in like, well, he won't be my friend or he doesn't understand me. But it's like, no, we're supposed to learn something, maybe grow something or something like that. So yeah, it's a valid point. But like I said, it does hurt though, you know, when
Listen,
when
the truth is it hurts for all of us, TT. You know, but what I've learned is I'm not asking you to discard people, but the fact of the matter is if you started growing during this time and then you get to the person that you knew from 3 or 4 months ago, they're not going to be, you're going to look at them in a different way. We just do. You know, they're not going to be the same person that you knew then. All of a sudden, you're going to look at them and go, wow, they're the same old person. But they're the same. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody is not going to be in the same journey or the same place or space with you. And that's okay. It's no law against that. But what you do need to understand is when their season's over, you can't go back to the past, because I promise you that as you see yourself emerging as something different, you're going to be looking back wondering something's changed about them. Nothing's changed about them, just something changed about you. You know, and that's the key. And remember, behind your feelings is nothing, but behind every principle, there's a purpose. And, you know, a lot of times, a lot of us aren't where we want to be in our lives because we're caught up in our feelings.
Right, right. I mean, I understand that to a certain extent. I can see it, but like I said, you can't say it does hurt sometimes.
Oh, sure.
And it's not like you say, I think, because like I said, sometimes you're the one who's outgrowing, and then sometimes you're the one who's getting left behind. So it's like,
yeah,
it's just sometimes
but either way, it's growth one way or the other. You know, and your show is a perfect example. As time goes on, as you begin to accelerate your growth in what you're doing, trust and believe that there are going to be people around you that are not going to see you the same anymore. They're going to believe you've left them behind, but you didn't. You left that part of your journey behind to start a new journey. But the only difference between you and them is that you said yes to where you wanted to go. So while it may hurt to some degree, and I get that, because, you know, I feel like when I come out of here now, like I'm going to be working on this book right now, which is very important to me, because the book is going to get me catapulted to being seen on, you know, on national levels in different places. So I understand that people aren't going to feel or see things the same. But I use this time of this 1,440 minutes in a day to do what I think is right for me. And that's, we're no different when you get out here and as you accelerate in your television show and the things in which you're doing with this podcast, people aren't going to see you the same either. They're going to think somehow something's wrong with you, that you changed or you're not the same. You have to be able to know when growth changes people. Growth changes all of us. But the key is being the effort and willing to grow to begin with. That's the key.
Right. Well, that's a very valid point. I hope some of us are getting this, because I mean, like I said, it's a painful thing. It's good, and that it's painful. But I guess if it was easy, you know, change wouldn't do it. Nobody would do it. Right?
For me, you're right. But you know, there's never been in my head, there has never been a plan B. Ever. Right. In my mind, plan A has always worked. It has to, because if there's a plan B, well, I'm gonna do the easier thing. So what's the purpose of doing plan A? Well, if this don't work, then I'm gonna do this. This is going to work because I want this. That's why you're becoming a success with this particular show, because this is what you want. And you can see your growth. Look back at your next shows in the next few weeks, and you'll see the difference from the way in which you structure the show and everything else. But that's because that's what you want. It doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. It just means that their part of your journey is over. And you never want, you know, when people don't want to be bothered, it doesn't mean that it's changed. You know, some people in your life right now are in the front row. But imagine when you walk out the door, some of them are going to be on the second or on the balcony, in the colonnade section, on the ends, you know, in the VIP section, to the exits. But that's the story of all of our lives. We're all that way. We're all that way.
Right.
You don't want people to see the same show every day.
No.
Then that's growth in itself. You're not going to give the same show every day.
Right.
So that's how we change.
Right. It's I mean, like you said, we could beat this whole topic up if we want to, but it's all come. Like I said, I know as you grow, you will attract people who will continue to help you grow, and that's what you mean about like closing out the closet. Because if you don't let go of some of the stuff, you're not making enough room for the new things to come in. And I think some people.
It reminds me of this girl that I used to see a long time ago. She said, and I had after I cut my hair, I had a long ponytail. And I remember her saying to me, she said, Tyrone, how long have you had that ponytail? And I said, I've had it about 10 years. And she said, She said, that ponytail represents a part of your past. She said, when you're ready to let that part of your past go, you'll cut that tail. And you know something? I cut it the next day. Immediately, because she was right. But it's the same, but that was a story that was a life-changing moment for me, because then it made me realize it's like I was holding on to a part of the past. That's what we do with our clothes. Right. That's what we do. You know, when we're sick and tired of being sick and tired, or when we can't fit them anymore, then we let them go.
Or we always say, just in case. Hold on, just in case.
I figured out in my mid-30s, for a long time, before I got into this, you know, juncture of my journey in my life. When we were kids, there were times when we wore clothes, but they were special occasions. But by the time we considered something a special occasion, we either outgrew it, or or it was out of style, or it didn't fit, or it was in a different season or session for us. And what I realized is it took me a long time to realize that it was okay to wear nice clothes any day I wanted to. You know, it's like when we were growing up, you know, we didn't go in the living room, or that was the china in that china cabinet over there. We didn't touch this. But what I realized is that that's how we lived our lives. We wouldn't even put anything on. We wouldn't do any of that stuff. And I had to get out of that mentality. I had to stop that, because I was doing it. Like, I wouldn't wear certain clothes, like, I'll wear that at a special occasion. But then I'm thinking the special occasion is me living. So I need to wear this now. And I started realizing that was important.
Right. I mean, okay, in our closing minutes here, I remember you having this philosophy saying, don't wait till the lights are what was it? Don't wait till the lights are out to be seen. What was that when we used to do the red carpets?
Yeah, what I would always do is that I wouldn't wait until the last minute to get on red. I wanted to be seen at my fullest potential. Like, if you go too early, you in and out. If you go at the end, the lights are off. But if you get in there in the middle, in the thick of things, when everybody's there, you maximize the exposure of who you are, what you need, where you want to be, and what you want to do. And you have to be able to know your destiny. And you got to be okay with whatever that destiny leads for you to be. And understand that over 300 million people are in the United States. And sometimes we let 3 or 4 people change our destiny. And that's the one thing that I've learned in my journey today. That's what's made me where I am today.
I like that, because you can always tie that into your clothing, because the clothes were meant to be seen. Remember that. Clothes are meant to be seen, to be worn. So you don't buy a dress tomorrow to be waiting for the next 3 years from now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, years ago when I was married to somebody, I remember saying, wow, it's good to see the kids in the living room. And she said the living room is supposed to be lived in. That's why they call it living room. And it's always stuck with me. Because you know how when we were kids, there was some rooms we didn't go in, and you know, there's things we didn't do. But now I realize, like, I maximize every room in my house. I just started doing that in my backyard. It's sunny here in Los Angeles. And you know, now I fix my backyard up. I'll take the computer out there. I'll do my work out there, because that's an extension of the house. Why do I have to wait? And so that's what I'm telling people. Don't wait around for your dream. If you know what your dream is, you need to go for it now. You can't connect the dots in front of you. You got to connect them behind you. Too many times we're trying to connect them in front. We can't do that.
Well, thank you, Mr. Tyrone, for that awesome insight that you shared with us today. And I want to thank you for those who tuned in. And I want to say, Mr. Tyrone, is there anything you'd like to leave with the audience with just before we close out?
The number one thing that I want to leave with people is that you've only got so much time over here living your life. And the best way to live your life is to do good work. And the best way to do good work is to love what you do. If you're not sure where it is, you got to keep looking for it. And then remember something that I always say about Rocky, and that always changed my life. He said, it's not about how hard you get hit, about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you keep getting hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. If you know what you're worth, go out and get what you're worth, but you got to be willing to take the hits.
Well, thank you. Thank you for leaving us with that. And I also want to wrap up and say, I encourage you to give us feedback on today's show. If there's anything that you'd like to see, or maybe you'd like to connect with Tyrone, I will definitely put all his links in the comments below. Feel free to email me if you want to know how to be a guest, or you know somebody, a guest show I did like you'd like to see. And please encourage you to like, share, and subscribe. And check out, make sure, you know, Confidence Rise is just not a name, it's a lifestyle. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you back another day. Okay.
Good.